And let's also say a few things about the Civil War anniversary. Last weekend, once I had finished taping the show, I went down to Fort Stevens and took part in the Civil War historians roundtable. I was just a spectator. Tried to point out to them that there was a great unsatisfied demand for more information about the foreign policy aspects of the Civil War, right? And I thank everybody again for making my Russian fleets tape on C-SPAN the second most viewed Civil War tape ever of all time. The most popular since 2001 and the most popular of those who take the pro-Northern position. Now, let's say a couple of things about this. When you go down to Fort Stevens, if you're coming from the north, right, from the Beltway, you go by the former Walter Reed Army Hospital on the right. That's a tragic thing that was shut down. Obviously, this was helped along by muckraking by the Washington Post. They focused on the motels on the left side of the street, not on the superlative facility on the right side if you're going south. But then you see this other thing, this cemetery, Battleground National Cemetery. The cannon are out in front. And it turns out this is the resting place for 41 Union defenders of the Capitol. And this was dedicated by Abraham Lincoln, that the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg is not the only one. That was, of course, in November 1863. But then in July 1864, Lincoln personally dedicated the Battleground National Cemetery a mile or so north of Fort Stevens. And this is an important thing to visit, that Lincoln was there. Little is known about what he said. It might have been a quick formula saying, I hereby dedicate this ground as a national cemetery for the defenders of Fort Stevens and of Washington in general. But there it is. Now, in the debate here on the tent, right, the National Park Service, I think, has been doing the best they could, and on the whole, a pretty good job on the Civil War anniversary. This was the best debate, and I'll tell you why. This was in that tent. We had the following participants, if I can find it here in my... No, it's Benjamin Franklin Cooling, right? He is the great expert in Early's Raid, Harper's Ferry, the Battle of Monocacy, the Battle of Fort Stevens, and the Washington forts. Anyway, we also had Robert K. Sutton, the chief historian of the National Park Service, and, most interesting to me, Frank Smith of the African American Civil War Memorial and Museum. I call your attention to this. The good thing about this debate was that out of all of the ones that I've been at this year, it's the one with a black community, black historians, black people in general were present. This is a big problem. You go to Gettysburg, lily white, generally speaking. Almost nobody black goes to these monuments, and this came up in the debate. Frank Smith, who is, again, the founder and the leader of the African American Civil War Memorial and Museum, said the problem with American Civil War studies is that the Confederates have owned the narrative for many, many decades, and this is what drives black Americans away from these monuments and, indeed, celebrations. Now, he is proposing to do something about this, and let me urge you to save this date. Frank Smith is the guy who got the African American Civil War Memorial built. Civil War to Civil Rights and Beyond, the Spirit of Freedom, and that is located in the Shaw community of Washington, D.C. Now, he's going to organize the repeat. Remember, at the end of the Civil War, there was the Grand Army of the Republic March. Army of the Potomac, Army of Tennessee under Sherman marched down up Pennsylvania Avenue. May 17th, 2015. May 17th, 2015, the repeat, the sesquicentennial closing march and parade This time, however, blacks will not be barred as they were the previous time. Blacks will be prominently invited, and this will be an integrated march. So take the narrative away from those Confederates and support the efforts of Dr. Frank Smith, who, by the way, is an old member of SNCC. SNCC, of course, the organization that sent the civil rights activists to Mississippi 50 years ago this summer. That was the Mississippi summer, and he's still active. More power to him. See you next week on World Crisis Radio.